There is such a sense of achievement growing plants by cutting pieces that have started off about 10 to 12 centimetres long. It is so easy to do, and it's the ideal solution if you're looking for hard to find plants or the budget doesn't quite stretch so far as to fill up the whole garden. And this time of the year, late spring or summer, is the time to get stuck into growing cuttings. This is because most plants have flowered and are now in the active growth phase. When the plants shoot past their flowers, it's ideal and they're not moisture stressed. If you try in winter, plants aren't actively growing enough and the cuttings usually rot before the weather is sufficiently warm enough for the cuttings to start growing. Now's the time to grab the secateurs and start collecting. About 10 to 12 centimetres is ideal, and when we trim it off, this new growth can't wilt, and if it does, we tip that out because otherwise it won't grow at all. It's just too soft. We need to let that harden off a little bit more. We trim off the bottom leaves, strip them in half, and anything that's got larger leaves than this, just chop them in half. Otherwise the cutting will lose too much moisture. And that's it. The quality of the propagating mix is just as important as the health of the parent plant you're taking the cuttings from. An Osmocote seed and cutting mix is ideal, both for cuttings as well as germinating seeds. It has just enough fertiliser that will deliver nutrients to the roots as they're growing but won't burn the new plants. It also contains koi peat. Now, koi peat has been a revolution. It's been around for many years, but what it's done is save the peat bogs of the world. It has fantastic re-wetting properties and holds moisture around the roots, but not too much so the plants won't rot. Always prepare 50% more cuttings than the number of plants you think you need. And if the end you get too many plants, well, you can always give them away. Use hormone gel or a solution of 1 tablespoon of honey to 2 tablespoons of water and dip the base of cuttings in. Water in and let drain. Cover the cuttings with a plastic bag. Ziploc bags are perfect because the heavier plastic tends to keep it more upright away from the foliage. One of the most important things is to make sure there's air movement around the cuttings. So just a little hole in the top will create a mini greenhouse environment. Store this somewhere where it's light but not in direct sunlight because otherwise the little cutting will burn. And when you start to see roots coming out the bottom of the pot, it's time to repot it. So important to use a premium potting mix. Divide the cuttings up, put them back into pots about this size, let them grow on and then they can go into the garden.